And nothing more important than workforce development. Certainly one of our highest priorities here at the college. You're going to hear a lot about that today, I believe, and I'll let you get to it in just a moment. But I wanted to say a quick thanks to the State Assembly members who are here, the legislative body, because the room you're sitting in was made possible by you. We just opened this facility back up on September 1st after an 18-month renovation. Every wall in this place was moved, torn down. Used to be a swimming pool right out here. I mean, if you ever were in Bandy Gym in the old days, it is quite a makeover. And so I can't say enough thank yous to you for making that possible for us here at the college. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to John and wish you all the best in your meetings today. Thank you.
Thank you very much for hosting us, as well as our friends with the NFIB. We've got a wonderful little breakfast over here. For those who want something, please make yourselves welcome. As well as for those that need facilities, if you walk back out where the front desk is, around to your left, please feel free to use restrooms, and there's an exit in the back door that'll make things a little easier for everyone. Unfortunately, Senator Chuck Payne has another study committee today for foster care down in Columbus. He was going to join us. He represents this area and is the chair of the Science and Technology Committee for the Senate. Does a phenomenal job, and he and I are also working together on artificial intelligence and how that's going to impact our state, local governments, as well as cities and businesses. So on behalf of Senator Payne, he welcomes you to his district and the great city of Dalton. We're going to take a moment and pass the microphone around, do a very brief introduction of each one of our committee members. Senator Beach is hopefully parking right now. He got turned around a little bit, but then I think we've got a full house.
Good morning. Senator Sonia Halpern. I represent District 39, which happens to be in Fulton County and covers 5 cities in that area, including Atlanta. Thrilled to be here today with each of you to talk about workforce development, which of course connects very deeply to business and industry, and it's great to be in the carpet capital of the world.
Floor covering. I was corrected earlier. Yes. Thank you, Senator Halpern.
I, too, love being in the floor covering capital of the world. No, I just want to make sure I got it right. Jason Estevez, State Senator for Senate District 6. That's Northwest Atlanta, representing parts of Fulton and Cobb counties.
Champ Bailey, Pro Football Hall of Famer, entrepreneur. Happy to be here.
Greg Dozier, Commissioner of the Technical College System of Georgia, and glad to be here as well, and real excited for my friend John Futchko, that's the president here now.
Joseph McDermott, Vice President of Delta Airlines. Pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Ryan Pernice, restaurateur. Got 3 restaurants in Roswell, Georgia.
Daniela Perry, Vice President for the Georgia Chamber of Commerce.
And Dave Williams, I'm Senior Vice President for Public Policy and Talent at the Metro Atlanta Chamber.
Thank you, committee members, for your presence and your input. Everyone here today can see on the screen, this is our website for the study committee. It is expandinggeorgiasworkforcestudy.com. With the exception of my high school picture, most of the content is excellent. What you'll see on here, which is important, is the background of all the meetings that we had in the past, as well as specifically a way that everyone can be involved. Now, it would be impossible for us to hear testimony from everyone in Georgia, but we do have the ability for folks to submit testimony. Keenan, thank you for clicking on that, where you can go on here, you can send us any form of media that you feel appropriate. All this gets sent back out, and Haley with our Senate Research Department, which, what is your new name now? The Office of Policy and Legislative Analysis. This is going to be like formerly known as. But Haley is really quarterbacking this process of assembling all the information that we are gathering and then utilizing that information for us to compile into the report. For the committee members, you have already gotten a couple of emails throughout this process. But specifically after this meeting, I'm going to ask you to read through those and make sure that you either agree or added content or modified something, because at our final committee meeting, which will be coming up here in November, if you'll click on the committee meetings for just one moment, Keenan, the last one's going to be at the Capitol, which will be our sixth committee meeting. That will be on November the 14th at 10 a.m. At that time, the Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, will be presenting to our committee as well. And this was his initiative, and asked me to chair the study committee for him in his vision to make sure we're preparing our workforce both for today as well for the future. So we hope that those that can be attendance will be there, but I believe we'll also live stream that one as well. The last part is, if you missed any meetings and you want to go see what happened, we've got the video archives. And thank you to the great work from Keenan, Lexi, and everyone else, and Emily from our Senate press office. We've got all of that available at your disposal should you want to look through those. So again, that's expandinggeorgiasworkforcestudy.com. And we thank everyone for the work that they did. None of this would happen without all the great work from all the staff, and I just want to take a moment to thank each and every one of them. Specifically, we also want to mention Allison in the back, who helped coordinate this. Allison, wave your hand so everybody can see you way in the back. Thank you for all your efforts. At this time, we're going to start moving to the meat of the agenda, but I want to give Senator Beach a moment to introduce himself.
Hey, sorry I'm late. It was not the easiest place to find, but I'm Brandon Beach. I represent District 21 in the Senate. I'm in my sixth term, which is North Fulton, Alpharetta, Milton, and Cherokee County, and glad to be here. Thank you, Chairman, for chairing this committee. Workforce is vital as we continue to be the #1 state in the country to do business. I also am Chairman of Economic Development and Tourism, so workforce is dear to my heart. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Beach. Well, you've been here a long time, 6 terms. All right, moving on. We're going to begin today with Mallory and Stephanie with the Georgia Association of Colleges and Employers. We're going to have speakers come right here where you see Keenan sitting with the laptop today. He will guide you through advancing slide decks if you brought a presentation. And when you're done, if we can get you to sit back in the main area, we'll have the next group come up. And if you grab the microphones to your left or right, we will turn it over to you. We're going to ask everybody to speak for about 10 minutes and then give about 5 minutes for the committee members for questions and answers. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Good morning. Yes, we are here to represent GACE, as we like to call it, which is the Georgia Association of Colleges and Employers. And we first wanted to just tell you a little bit about who we are. My name is Mallory Safely. I work here at Dalton State College as the Assistant Director for Career and Professional Development, helping our students from A to Z when choosing a career path, helping them to develop the necessary skills that they need before heading out into the workforce, and then helping them towards the end with whatever their next chapter is beyond Dalton State, going into the workforce or going into grad school.
And I'm Dr. Stephanie Womack. I am the Director of Education and Workforce Development here at the Greater Dalton Chamber of Commerce. So I am tasked with working with our students to make sure that they can be successful in their educational attainment from birth to career. And so Mallory and I both serve on the board of directors for the Georgia. I was president for 18 months, and I'm now the past president. And Mallory is our communications and marketing director. So we're going to tell you a little bit about GACE. We know that we're not a very well-known organization, but we do serve the entire state of Georgia. So the mission of GACE is to provide a link between employers and career services professionals, provide professional development and promote professional and ethical standards, and foster relationships among employers and career services professionals. So our goal is to ensure that our students that are graduating from the University System of Georgia and the Technical College System of Georgia are connected to so that we're keeping our talent in the state and our employers statewide are getting the talent that they need. And so we do that in a number of different ways. But we truly hope to connect our students to the professional workforce and what that truly looks like. We can.
So, I mean, I'm not going to necessarily read the screen to you because I know all of you can read, but we have our main focus, as Stephanie has said, is to make sure that our employers have easy access to our early talent, our students, and our students have easy access to wonderful career opportunities, not just jobs, but career opportunities that will last them their entire career. Ones that allow them to use the skills that they're developing in college to go on and provide great service to our communities. So we do things by aiding in their selection and creating strength and provide all those things. So, and all of this can be found on our website as well. So here's a couple of benefits of being a member of GASE. So we have college and institution, university and institution memberships, and then we have our employer partners memberships as well. And then we have, I said partners, but we have partnerships, employer members, and institutional members. And so there's lots of benefits to being a part of GASE. Currently we have over 55 plus institutions that are a part of GASE with over 182 active members. We can touch over 380,000 students and even more alumni. And of course, we host several different events, workshops, professional development opportunities for our members to help them get to whatever point is next, to help cover trending things that are happening in the workforce and trending things that are happening in higher education, so that we're staying on top of where the workforce is heading, making sure our students are prepared, making sure our employers know what's happening in higher ed so they can easily access our students. And some of the membership.
Yeah, so member benefits, our goal is truly to connect our talent acquisition people and talk about best practices. So for the employer side of things, and we'll get into that in just a second, we want our talent acquisition professionals to be able to share how they are attracting their workforce, how they're recruiting, and how they are retaining their workforce. And so that's a critical need. And also we want to make sure, like I said before, that they stay in the state. And so for GASE, that's our goal, that all of our graduates can find gainful employment within the state, whether they are graduating with a credential or a degree from a technical college or a 4-year degree or a graduate degree. We have previously hosted the largest career fair in the state. We have, since the pandemic, have transitioned away from that because we have noticed our student attendance has gone down, and we are currently in a process of trying to figure out what will that look like next. But it was the largest career fair in the entire state of Georgia, had representation from all over the state, and so we are looking now, how do we serve our employers for that next area?
How I, as a, from the higher ed side of things, how I benefit and use GASE goes in many different ways. Obviously, my students have access to not just our local employers here in our service area, but access to employers all across the state and really almost all across the South. So any of our students have access to jobs, to professional development opportunities, hiring events that those employers might be hosting, and vice versa. Those employers hear about Dalton State. They hear about the Dalton State's students, what our students are doing, and how they can find their early talent through our pipeline of students. Obviously, like we mentioned earlier, the association offers professional development opportunities for people like me looking for ways to use AI in helping students understanding interviewing or networking or even developing their documents like cover letters and resumes. So they host many different topics that are trending in hiring and workforce development as we get ready to help our students. And of course, just that leadership piece. There is actually, Stephanie is overseeing what we call GLI, GASE Leadership Institute. And so we get to, I actually graduated from the 2022 class of GLI, where we went through lots of different workshops to cover all kinds of different things to develop our leadership skills as individuals in our own careers. So I love working with GACE and of course, just partnering and networking with others across the state, whether it be employers or like-minded career services professionals like me.
And then on the employer side of things, now a Chamber of Commerce is obviously much different than a typical employer, but I use it to help our members. And so if I know that people are looking for employees, I'm able to recommend the association because of the connections to Georgia Tech, University of Georgia. We work with our independent college system as well, and so we are able to connect employers to every single college if they need to find students that we might not be able to provide them locally with Dalton State or Georgia Northwestern Technical College. And so I use the same networking opportunities and professional development that Mallory has said. One of the opportunities that we see for GACE is to kind of ramp up our employer engagement. In a couple slides, you will see the partners that we have and the employers that are heavily involved with the work that we're doing. But what we know as an organization is we have not historically been great at telling the story of who we are. And because we are connected to over 380,000 students in the state, we know that our employers are looking for talent and we can help be that connector. And so an opportunity is for our employers to get to know us, become members of us. Our membership is $60 a year, which is very affordable. And that way we can get people connected to get the talent that they need. So on the slide, you can see these are some of our partner members. These are employers that are heavily connected to GACE and the work that we have done and have been historically involved in the work.
Yeah. And so obviously Mohawk is very local for us. And so we were happy that they joined as a partner of GACE, I think about 3 or 4 years ago. And so they are heavily involved in GACE and obviously very involved here in Dalton State's service area and GNTC's service area. So we are very excited that they joined as a partner of GACE. And then we also have several others. I have another slide that'll show you who all our partner level employers are. But our students have direct access to these employers. So they can, even though, you know, Mansfield isn't locally here in the Dalton service area, they are still heavily connected to Dalton. They post their jobs on Handshake, which is our career management system where our students can find jobs. They come to our events when they can, and again, find early talent through this pipeline. So we're very excited that we have access, and of course, they love being a part of GACE too, as you can see on the screen. And this is just a quick snapshot of our partners. We do have 3 different partner levels. We have gold level, which is currently Enterprise Holdings, silver level, which is Comcast, and then we have several bronze levels, Child Care Careers, Mansfield, Fastenal, Mohawk Industries, Prosponsive Logistics, Synovus, Team Georgia Careers, and Yardi. I think, yeah, that's right, yeah. So we're very excited about having them be a part of GACE. They help support us in many ways. And, of course, they have first dibs on a lot of things with our colleges across the state because they are our partners in GACE. So we're very proud and we love our partners. And that's it. Yep. Any questions? Yep.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate that. Oh, are we on? Okay. Fascinating for what you're doing. Great job connecting, obviously, students to the employers. As students are graduating or even still in school, is there a deficit of those who are trying to find a job at this point, or are there multiple jobs available for them in the area?
There are many jobs in the area. I think it really depends on what that student's aspirations are, if they are having struggles or how soon they start. I am a one-person office here at Dalton State, so servicing all, 4,300 students, plus all of our alumni, is a wonderful job. I love my job, but please don't misunderstand me. But to get around to all of them to make sure that they know all their options is one thing that I work very hard to do. So they do have access to jobs through Handshake. We do lots of workshops throughout the semester. Do they have access? Is there a large percentage of students that struggle? No, it's not a large percentage. It's very small. and we work with them one-on-one to make sure that they find what they need.
That's fantastic. The model that you're doing obviously is extraordinarily successful. Are you aware of other areas in the state that are doing something similar?
Like specifically with
The way you're
GACE?
connecting everyone together, yes.
I would say, from our understanding, we are kind of the premier organization that's doing this work. So bringing together these two groups of individuals to kind of cross the barrier to this level, we're the only organization in the state. But luckily, we connect all corners of the state together. In our annual conference, everybody comes together. We hop between the mountains and the beach every other year to try to make sure that everyone can get where they need to go. And then the majority of our in-person professional development events take place in the Atlanta regional area because that is where the highest number of our membership is.
And we are a subset of NACE, which is the National Association of Colleges and Employers. And GACE is one of the top sub branches of NACE definitely across the South, but I would say across the U.S. A lot of other ACEs come to our conference each year to see what we're doing because we're doing it upright, let me tell you. We love it. We have a great time. This is one of our pictures from our last conference that we had up in Brasstown Valley area. And, of course, in May of 24, we'll be down in St. Simon. So we do move the conference around the state to make sure that we're covering everybody.
Fantastic. Are there questions from the committee members? Pass the microphone down to Ryan, please.
Yeah, hello. Thank you for the presentation. Interested to hear your comment about a job fair. Interesting to hear your comment about a job fair falling off in relevancy, and you're in a unique position to comment. So I own 3 restaurants, and I can tell you job fairs used to work. Now they don't work. And I think it's a useful microcosm of what is happening in hiring right now. It ties together, we've talked in this committee before about soft skills. I've got maybe 58% of my interviews just don't show up. So the job fair of the future, where do you see that going? Is it as simple as it just moves online? Is it just I need a robot to talk to other robots? What does that look like?
That's a really great question. So GACE was actually one of the first people to do a virtual career fair when the pandemic took place. And our first career fair in 2020 was wildly successful because we had students that needed to find work. And we have hosted 3 since then, and we have had a complete drop-off of students to where we'll have 900 students register and under 200 actually show up. And so that's actually what we are currently as a board talking about. So we are, as past president, I'm kind of overseeing bringing together our employers, our partners, and our colleges to talk about how do we see this moving forward, because career fairs are just not working. You can ask almost every college. I think Kennesaw State is the only one that has had incredibly successful career fairs in the last 24 months. And everyone will tell you that the engagement on the student level is just not there anymore. And so if you keep up with us, we are spending the next 12 months figuring out what does it look like and what do our graduating students, what this generation, what do they want, what do they need, and how do we make sure that they're finding the employment that they desire.
Other questions from the committee members? Seeing none, Mallory, Stephanie, thank you so much for your testimony today. We appreciate you. Okay, let's have our friends with the NFIB come up.
I'm going to set that down right there. Hopefully you guys get to hear me and it's picking it up. No? All right, I'll hold it then.
We've got thousands of people watching online. They need to hear each and every word, Hunter.
Thousands, all right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Hunter Loggins. I am the State Director for the National Federation of Independent Business. And with me, I have Blake Glenn, our Grassroots Manager. NFIB is the state's leading small business advocacy organization. We have a little over 6,600 members. Some of them are here with us today. Our mission is to promote, protect the right of our members to own, operate, and grow their business. We, of course, do that by our lobbying efforts up at the state capitol, but more importantly is our grassroots and advocacy programs, getting our members plugged in with you, elected officials, and members of the committee, and educating them on the issues. And Blake's going to touch a little bit about that.
Thanks, Hunter. And I'm Blake Glenn. I'm the grassroots manager for Georgia. So as Hunter alluded to, advocacy, getting our members involved. And these are, small businesses. So they're out there, running their businesses every single day, from being the accountant to being, the person, at the front desk to everything. So we try to make it, as easy as possible. So sorry for all the emails and phone calls that we end up leading to with that. But appreciate all of your time that you've given our members. So we want to go through, we did a survey recently with our members, and just want to note that this is an anecdotal survey of our members in Georgia. Just a little snapshot, just to kind of give you like how our folks are feeling currently, but this is not, an overall NFIB national opinion here. So out of our member responses, the average number of employees that our folks are having in this survey was 24. But a lot of our members tend to be in that 5 to 10 range. So we asked them, do you have an open position you're trying to fill? So out of the survey, 71% said yes, and then even higher, 92% are having trouble finding qualified applicants, which I think most are feeling that. And so we also asked, what positions are you trying to fill? And so the bigger, the word is the most it's come up in our survey. So you can see it's across the board between, journeyman electrician, mechanic, salesperson. So just about across the board, every different industry, folks are looking for people and just are having a hard time finding them. And so here are, some of the reasons why that we've heard from our members in this survey, education, work experience, work ethic. But also note that having no applicants has been a really big issue, and I think a lot of our members had said that, where they post Indeed and they end up, hearing nothing. And so then we started asking, have you tried, changing things up? So have you tried, putting, new benefits to recruit or retain? So, almost half of our respondents said yes. So you kind of see examples that they've given about like what they've done, whether it's, providing more insurance, 401k eligibility, increasing vacation time, cell phone stipends and whatnot. And then we asked, are there other unique ways? And I think we can all appreciate Masters Week Off is a great way to attract potentially some new candidates. But they've done new vehicles, flexible work hours, 4-day work weeks, things that are maybe going a little above and beyond kind of what normal benefits might look like. And this one was probably the most striking for us. This is members who have heard of or used the registered apprenticeship program. So 0% of our members have even heard of this program. And none of them use it, so I think it'd be really great for us to somehow tap into that and make sure that they're taking full advantage of that program. And here are just some snippets that we've pulled out from our members. Some quotes from them throughout this survey that we just thought we'd highlight for you folks.
Thanks, Blake. And I'm sure you've all heard throughout the several committees that we've done are the problems. Let's try and get to some solutions. First and foremost, we believe most importantly, and I had the pleasure of talking with Senator Halpern about this last week, is education. It starts with our young folks in the classrooms and getting involved in wanting to learn a skill or a trade. We applaud the efforts of the legislature and the commissioner for increasing the funding for our technical programs. They're expanding their CDL programs and other technical licensing Also, relevant curriculum like the ag education program that's required now in schools, and financial literacy that's now required in schools. And of course, we saw recently the governor's announcement of the Georgia Match Program, which we think is a fantastic step in the right direction for getting our young folks plugged into skilled labor and trade. Automatically graduating high school and having a place to go is a huge, huge deal. And then lastly, in education is educating you guys, educating our leaders on the issues. So thank you for putting together these study committees. We have one on trucking and workforce. There's others on occupational licensing. I think Senator Walker's heading that. So these are all steps in the right direction. A brief look at what other states are doing. South Carolina is putting a lot of investment in the workforce. They created the Workforce Scholarships for the Future program. It provides scholarship for all at-need careers, and those are assessed, I think, yearly to figure out what folks need. And also the Emergency Educational Relief Fund that provides retraining programs for those high-demand careers like truck driving and others. Also, the scholarships to cover the cost of tuition at these sort of technical these technical schools, and we think, perhaps the governor's initiative is a step in that direction, which we would certainly appreciate. Another thing we kind of need to tread lightly on is in Iowa with youth employment. We helped to update decades-old laws pertaining to youth employment. There was a law that they couldn't operate a microwave, and we think we're not giving our young folks enough credit. I was operating a microwave to cook popcorn, I think, when I was 5. Just make sure you don't put any metal in there, but I think they figured that out a long time ago. But we cannot stress this enough. We need the parents involved. Parental consent is vital for these programs. Getting these children in the workforce, so to speak, it has to start with the parents and what they could provide and how many hours they could work. Next up is licensing. Governor Youngkin recently in Virginia signed into law a program which will recognize 85 different professional licensing in the state. We think a streamlined licensing process is vital. They will now recognize out-of-state licensing for relevant experience, and of course, you can see the requirements there. At least 3 years, are in good standing, and underwent training and examination in the state they're working with. And this applies to 85, I said, but this could be barbers, real estate agents, plumbers, electricians, gas fitters, chefs, HVAC tradesmen, all sorts of stuff. So we think that's a very good program. Also in Virginia with trucking, I recently testified in the Senate Trucking and Workforce Committee, so I could spend another hour on what we could do in regards to licensing and getting more folks in the trucking industry. But this one was very interesting. The state partnering with associations to find and plug in workers into the field. I think Mallory touched on this recently. They have something similar, but if the state could partner with someone to find who's hiring and then directly plug them into the workforce, would be beneficial. Again, on trucking, and we think this is very important, is getting our veterans easier access to the workforce, as well as our second chance nonviolent inmates with the right technical skills. And we think it could expand more than this, just trucking. If they have relevant experience in their military service or within programs in the penitentiary system, we think we could get them plugged in easier and make it more accessible for them to getting into the workforce. And before I get on to Q&A, I want to go back briefly to this slide here. Our small businesses have a difficult time competing with larger chains to get employees just because they don't have the resources available to provide higher wages. I want to say the latest survey of Georgia, over 90% of the state's revenue is from small businesses, and 85, I believe, or higher are employed by small businesses. So we are the backbone of the state. And how do you continue to compete with higher wages? We like to say small businesses are dying by death of 1,000 paper cuts. And what that means is inflation, higher taxes, higher insurance. So if those burdens were eased, they could offer higher wages or better benefits, increased vacation time, and hire more employees. One of the things that the legislature could help do is address the legal climate. I know the governor came out recently and said he wants to do something to address the litigious system in Georgia. If that were to be addressed in just the most minimal way, insurance premiums would lower and they would have money to do whatever they can to hire other employees. Secondly, there's an initiative going through next session. It's HB 808. It will deal with the tangible personal property tax on our businesses. Real briefly, what this is if I own a business and I have a computer, a desk, a TV, what have you, sometimes it's pencils and paper, the counties will come in and tax that because I'm using it for my business. Even though I already bought it and paid sales tax on it, they'll come in and continue. It's essentially an infinite tax. So this bill next session will raise the de minimis threshold for which businesses are exempt. So up to $50,000. So if you have up to $50,000, that is exempt from tangible personal property. And after that, we think it's a good compromise for our local governments, and hope to see that passed. And last thing is cutting red tape. The Lieutenant Governor recently made his announcement that he wants to help small businesses and businesses in general. And so Blake's putting together a survey for our members to see what is onerous and what y'all could do to help just cut that BS, essentially. So happy to take any questions if you have any.
Well, thank you for your presentation. One of the things you brought up that we've discussed a few times during the committee meetings is the fact that high school and college students are just not working like they used to be. And it's causing a lot of problems, not just gaps in the workforce, which are certainly an issue, but also they are not gaining those very basic experiences like Ryan was talking about, whether it be the soft skills, you know, the basics of how to talk to someone, how to get to work on time and do your best. Is the NFIB doing anything in particular to address that issue? I realize some of that is a parent issue, but also it's just, I think, educating the students.
Sure. And like I said, we have fantastic members who have those values already. And just speaking with them, they don't obviously represent the entire parenting apparatus of Georgia, but they understand those values. But in terms of a program, not so much, but something we could definitely look into.
Questions from the committee members? Commissioner Dozier.
Yeah, I was just going to offer the Registered Apprenticeship Program falls under TCSG and the Governor's Office of Workforce Development. We'd love when you have a session to come do some education and make sure your members are aware of that. Obviously, you probably know, and I know members of the General Assembly know, we for a long time have had some funding that comes in with the WIO Act that helps with registered apprenticeship training. But 2 sessions ago, by the Senate, a little over $1 million was put in to help employers do some of that. So it's a brand new program. It's a brand new opportunity. The governor also provided some of the GEARS money to help on the training side likewise. But there's different opportunities, basically 3 different programs. We'd love to do some education. So just let me know when your next event is, and we'll make sure somebody's there.
Sure. Happy to partner
Awesome.
with you guys. And we had the opportunity of joining the governor for his CEO summit recently just to touch on education. And there was one gentleman that hammered the point that we need to get that information out there. Whatever the legislature could do to increase funding to get those programs into the schools, whether it be through the counselor, social media, what have you, because taking advantage of the apprenticeship program would be huge. And I know Senator Halpern recently took a trip and has some ideas on how they did it over there, and look forward to seeing what comes out of that.
Other questions? Ryan?
Do you know of a single jumping off point for any small business owner in the state where I can go to an online portal and say, here's my business, here are my needs, here's what my pain points are, and I could be presented with, here are all of the programs that are available that could help with that you probably don't know about? Because as your survey attests, there are likely dozens of programs that would help me in my hiring that I have no idea are even out there, because as you alluded to earlier, I got my head down running my business. Senator Alba's just coming in at 7:30. I got to have his table ready. I got to have these. So I got to make sure we're ready for guests. I'm not on there researching what's available. So is there anywhere I could go that's a one-stop shop for here's what I can do?
Well, I'm sure there are, but as for a one-stop shop, I don't believe there is, and if there is, I have not heard about it. So educating folks on that would be great. But as I talked about earlier, Virginia is partnering with several associations to create something like that, a portal, a one-stop shop to get folks plugged in on their needs, and not only feeding the workers to them, but what sort of training they might need. So be happy to help put something like that together.
This is a real important point. Haley, if you would please take this down as part of our report and recommendations. I think this is a critical point.
The program's only as good as it's utilized. She could have the best program out there. I mean, you all remember in 2020, my COVID experience was I felt like a student applying to college again, because I was just applying to all of these things to help get us through the next 3 months, the next 6 months. That took so much time that I only could afford to do because we weren't open for business at the moment. So I think the ability to quickly and easily identify what are the programs that already exist that I just don't know about would be a huge help. The other fun thing I'll mention is I enjoyed reading your bit about unorthodox benefits being offered, because we started offering 2 days of pet bereavement pay, and it resonated very deeply with my staff. So I'm glad to hear other people are doing those things, and I'm right there with them.
See, and as a small business owner, attracting and keeping workers is the most difficult thing we hear. And something like that is super unique, and I mean, you probably shouldn't have said it out loud, because now you're going to have competition. That's right. And that's another point I want to make. Small businesses, they care about their employees. They're not in the back, just counting their money. They're the first in, the last to leave, and the last to get paid. And they care about their employees and want them, to want to see them succeed and generate some money.
Great point. Other questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you very much, Hunter. Thank you, Blake. We
Thank
appreciate
you, Dan.
everything you and the NFIB does.
You got my contact information right there. Feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay, next up with the Home Depot was Hillary and Aaron come up. I was mentioning them earlier, my phenomenal customer service experience with the Home Depot for my home store and online. As we all know that any of us in the business world typically don't get people that call us up and say thank you. Same works in elected officials. So maybe we should spend more time pointing out the positives in this world, and we appreciate everything that Home Depot does.
We're also available for your appliance delivery challenges. Be happy to help.
You've delivered many to the Alberts household. Thank you. I'll turn it over to you.
All right, well, good morning, and thank you so much for having us. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I'm Hillary Thrower, and I'm the Senior Manager of State and Local Government Relations for the Home Depot, so I cover the southeastern states. Again, thank you so much. Point of personal privilege, really glad to be in Dalton. This is my hometown, so I was able to have breakfast with my grandmother this morning before the committee meeting, but really just excited to be here, special place to me. So as I'm sure you know, workforce development is extremely important to the Home Depot. We have almost 500,000 employees nationwide, over 2,300 stores, and we have plans to open another 80 stores over the next 5 years. So we're going to need associates to work in those stores. So really excited about the discussion today. We have Erin Eisen here. She is the Senior Director of Workforce Programs at the Home Depot. She's been with the company for almost 20 years across a variety of different roles, so she knows the company inside and out. And most recently, now in her current role, she is responsible for the Home Depot's workforce development strategies and is responsible for our National Military Relations Program. So I could go on and on about Erin, but I'm really excited for you all to hear what she has to share. So thank you.
Well, thank you for having me today. Like Hillary, I'm actually one of the few native Georgians. I'm somewhere in one of your two areas is where I grew up, and so this is this is home for me as well, so thank you for this opportunity. You guys know Home Depot. We're not generally new when we walk into a room. So we have 33,000 associates in Georgia. We are the largest company headquartered in Georgia. We're down in Vinings. We were founded here off Monroe Drive in 1979. And so this is home for us too as a company. So over 33,000 of our Georgia natives wear the orange apron as well. But and while we were as a company really struggled through COVID, I think as everybody did, what I'm here to talk to you today is not about us, because as the economy has stabilized, we're the big guy, we figure it out, and we are now being able to staff our stores and DCs with, I'll say, relative ease to the challenges everybody else has. But who is not able to do the same is our pro customers. And that's who my team is working on, is helping the small and medium guys who do not have the resources that they need to hire. So that is what we're focused on right now. If you'll hit the next slide, is tackling some of the skilled labor gap. So 94% of our pros are telling us they cannot find the labor they need to grow their business. And this is not necessarily the big guys. This is the small guys. We call them chuck in a truck, who are looking to hire their second, fifth, 10th, 15th person. They do not have the time to go and make connections with the technical college system to find the plumbers that they need. They're really, as you mentioned earlier, you're trying to get tables ready. They're under, people's cabinets fixing pipes and doing electrical work. They don't have time to be doing that. And so it's really constraining them. It's the number one constraint for them being able to grow. So right now there are 400,000 jobs in the construction industry. That's projected to grow to 3.9 million by 2029. And Georgia is ranked number 12 on that list. So we have a problem here in Georgia that I'm sure many of you are feeling, not just in the construction industry. So left unaddressed, this is really going to hurt not just the Georgia economy, but it hurts Home Depot's business too. So that's why we're stepping in to help. I'm going to hit the next slide. So last November, we introduced what is called the Path to Pro program. And our goal is just to kind of reduce that barrier to entry for the next generation of trade professionals. And there's 3 things that we're really trying to do. Number 1 is generate interest. And as I'm sure Commissioner Dozier can tell you, getting people interested in the trades, it's kind of like the military too now, is a very difficult thing, and there are a lot of hurdles. Less than 3% of young people coming out of high school are interested in the trades. And a lot of that has to do with an incorrect assumption that there's not wealth to be made here, that it's dirty, that it's not reliable. Mom doesn't want her son to be a plumber. My son's a plumber. He's doing great. But we got to flip the script on what it is to work in the trades. And so our investments there through our Path to Pro program is a consolidated website. Like you said earlier, there's not one place to go for a lot of things, and the trades is no exception to that. So we built one website called pathtopro.com, go take a look, that has information on what it's like to work in the trades and the different industries within the trades, how you can go about doing it, and what it means for a career. And it really talks to not just students, but parents, influencers, and guidance counselors as well. We've built youth programs with our foundation and getting into everywhere from 5th grade all the way up through construction programs, trying to get people more involved earlier in the funnel. So then after that, we are trying to help people train for the job site. One of the things that we hear from our pros is it's not about necessarily being able to find the people, it's finding the people that are going to show up. We hear the same thing about not showing up for interviews, and it's soft skills. And when we say soft skills, we often think of resumes and being able to interview, and that's actually not it. They say it's showing up on time, having a positive attitude, and being willing to learn. Our pros are like, I'll teach them how to use a tape measure. I'll teach them how to use all this. I'll teach them everything once they get to the site. They don't have to know anything. If you can just have them show up, that's all I need. So what we did is we built a skills program rather than having people have to go and do a 12-week construction program. And those are great, don't get me wrong, but we could have them working next week. If they could just go online and they take these couple of hours of online classes for free, it is on pathtopro.com. They learn about job site safety. They learn about showing up on time, having a positive attitude, being willing to learn the basics of the construction tools they might get in. There's 6 different tracks right now. We'll have 19 by the end of next year, but you learn the basics of what are the different tools in electrical, what are the different tools in plumbing, what does it mean to wear steel-toed boots. All of those things are in that skills program. I encourage you to go check it out, and it is free, online, and self-paced, so whenever you have time to do it, you can go on and do that. And when our pros see that someone has graduated from the skills program, that shows somebody that has shown up somewhere and tried to learn, so they know that that's going to be a candidate that's probably going to be good for them. We do still support the certifications. Our foundation has partnerships on 10 military bases as part of the SkillBridge program, and to date we've sponsored 4 different community academies too. We also offer scholarships, Path to Pro scholarships. Most people falling out of technical college are actually for very small amounts, so we have $2,500 trades scholarships available. And then finally, the big part of this is once you're trained or you're interested in the trades, once we get you there, how do you find that job? Because there's not one place to go. Career Builder is not where you go to become an electrician. So how do they find those jobs? So we built what we call the Path to Pro Network. And if you want to flip to the next slide. This was built based on what our pros told us they want to see when they're hiring people. So it is essentially LinkedIn for the trades. This is new. It is free. It is behind Pro Extra, which is our pro loyalty program. So candidates sign up for free, and pros can go in and view those candidates and then post their jobs for free. So it is a specific to the trades job board that is built with tradespeople in mind. So if we went on there and clicked on Gerald's baseball card, is what I call these you see here, it would open more info on Gerald. It's going to show you pictures that Gerald took of work he's done. It's going to talk about the different skills he has that's applicable to the trades, and our pros can go in there and find the people they need in their area. We just launched this. As of this morning, there are over 21,000 candidates in this portal already. The challenge is we have 15.5 million pros in the portal as well. So there's 2,200 jobs have already been posted. We need to get more prospects into this portal. And so we're doing everything we can, partnering with technical college systems, partnering with nonprofits, partnering with workforce development groups. The challenge is we're a team, my whole team is a team of 5. And we can't go have meetings with everybody we want to have meetings with. So trying to get the word out is really our biggest challenge. But if you come here, you can find a job today and start your entry-level career in the trades. And then finally, a little bit of other info with Home Depot. I'm passionate about Path to Pro, but we do a lot of other great things as well. We have a military relations team. I am a wife and mom to Marines, so this is also something I'm super passionate about. Tens of thousands of veterans working for us. We have things called fellowship programs, which is the SkillBridge program for transitioning service members. We've had 18 in Georgia come into that program in the last 2 years. We last year announced a military spouse transfer policy with our 2,300 locations. It's easy for us to be able to transfer a military spouse wherever they might go within the United States on orders. We have generous LOA benefits. We just added a 7-day LOA if you're going to be deploying so that you can go and get ready and have paid time to go get ready. And Mission Transition Online just launched in May. It is free online courses on resumes, building your brand, and interviewing with a flair for helping military transition to civilian lingo, because that's a big challenge for them. So those courses are also online and free for anyone. I encourage you to go see it. Our biggest initiative within our foundation, and I'm on the board for our foundation, is we're investing $500 million to veterans causes by 2025. I'm excited. We're ahead on our announcement there, so watch us around Veterans Day. And we are also putting $50 million into the skilled trades. So we are really trying to take these veterans that are coming out of the military, about 200,000 a year, and also give them not just career paths to the Home Depot, but career paths to the skilled trades. We're involved here with the HBCUs in Georgia. Our Retool Your School program helps do upgrades on the school campuses, and also we have scholarship programs at those as well. So final page, I know I got a lot of content. How can you help? So I'm gonna give you a to-do list to walk away with. One of the biggest problems we have, like I mentioned, is just getting young people into the non-traditional blue-collar career paths, and I have a feeling I'm speaking Commissioner Dozier's language here. It's just getting people in there because school counselors are often incentivized to place into 4-year degree programs since the No Child Left Behind Act, and so there's just not as much emphasis on these. So can we bring back college, promoting trades tracks, bring back shop class outside of just college prep, help, fund the clubs, expand community funding and grants for the technical college system, and even certificates would be wonderful. Having outreach programs, because like I mentioned, we've got a program, but me getting it to the hands of the right people has been our biggest challenge, because it's hand-to-hand combat, building these relationships. There's been, in Georgia, there used to be what's called Go Build Georgia, which is like a consolidator for this information and kind of built that excitement here in Georgia. It would be great to have something like that in Georgia again. And then as you're able, share this program with your constituents. They can go today and create a profile and be ready to and get a job or get free skills training. They could be working next week. That's the exciting thing about this. So my team would be happy to give you all the social media graphics and collateral you could want to pass on to your constituents. Just send us an email and we would love to do that. But again, this is where Home Depot is really trying to help our pros grow. And none of this is for us. It's really for the betterment of the industry. But it has been a real challenge getting this stood up.
Thank you both. Inspiring to say the least. I was looking at your Path to Pro solution. I'm thinking, well, we need to apply that to almost every industry, have something similar there. So Haley, again, one of our recommendations will be is how, as a state, can we work with all the different industries to facilitate something like this? Because clearly it's needed and working, but I can just see the same thing applying across the board. That is fantastic work. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we may come back to you with a to-do list and asking you to help us to get there.
Happy to do that.
All right. Other questions, committee members?
Aaron, could you just touch a little more on the military hires and the retention rate? Obviously, they make pretty good employees.
Happy to. Yeah, we really see when we hire veterans that they, first of all, they meet our values. Home Depot is a customer service-driven organization. We have a values wheel, and they align very closely to our company values. They tend to be more loyal. They tend to have lots more leadership experience. They just fit well, and they tend to stay and be committed. So we really love having veterans. On the flip side, we do a pretty good job of helping them transition to the civilian life. It's really difficult. So we assign them a mentor that is a veteran, so they help with the things like, I know when my husband was in the Marines for 20 years. When he came out, he didn't know, you mean I can go to lunch when I want to? And what does the words business casual mean? Because he'd worn, camis his whole life. So we have programs that kind of help with the basics. It's things you don't really think about. And then we have training classes for our HR team too, to tell them what it means to be in the military, when they say their MOS was tanks, what does that mean, kind of things, to help the translation on both sides. But we really love our veteran associates.
Thank you for hiring.
Champ?
Okay, you mentioned you had 15 million
Yes.
pros, right?
Correct.
So obviously you'd love to have 15 million people looking for them, right? But what ways are you getting the word out to them?
Great question. So there's kind of two different groups of people that would go into the network. It's the prospects, and that's the challenge. That's finding the people that want jobs or need jobs. And so we're doing everything from trying to get posters in the Department of Labor unemployment offices, to working with their friends at Goodwill to get out to nonprofit partners like that, to working with workforce study boards. You will start seeing more from Home Depot as a brand, I will say, this fall, specifically with some NFL football, but I didn't say that. And so we're really trying to get it out to get people interested in the trades. On the pro side, we've not really even marketed it much to them, because to get that balance right, like I said, 20,000 versus 15 million, we know they're going to come and eat up all the candidates. We're trying to get the right number of candidates in there first.
Chairman, just one question. You mentioned the investment that you'll be making in the military organizations. It was $500 million, I think was the number. I was not writing fast enough. What was the time frame?
We first announced that we were going to focus on veterans causes in 2011. It's when we learned that veterans homelessness was at an all-time high. It was at a critical peak. It was actually 2010. So we decided to focus on veterans housing. We made a small commitment then. Over time, it's grown. So $500 million from 2011 to 2025 is where we'll be, $500 million. And we do things it's veterans housing and support. So it's everything from critical home repairs, helping with shelters, trying to find places where they have spaces to live. I think we've touched, is it 50,000 spaces at this point? I know numbers in my head, but I don't remember which ones are now versus future. And so it's about 50,000 spaces. And as of last year, veterans housing issues have dropped by 50%. So we're starting to see, that we're getting to a point where the people that want to be helped are being helped. And now we're trying to focus a little bit on the workforce development and helping them get jobs as well. in the skilled trades.
Other questions from the committee members? Seeing none, thank you so much, Hillary, Aaron, and everything Home Depot does for us. Okay, next up, we're going to have the Georgia Automobile Dealers Association. I saw Ben and Bill back there, and I think we're going to have some good local business owners come up to talk to you. And I understand you're going to make a deal for them to drive home in a Ford today. Is that right, Jason? All right, just make sure. Okay. I'll turn it over to you guys.
Well, Senator Albers, members of the committee, Ben Jordan from the Georgia Automobile Dealers Association. The young man behind me, Bill Morey, is our president emeritus, and on behalf of everyone at GADA, we just want to say thank you for forming this committee. Thank you for tackling this very important issue, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. I'm joined by a special guest, Mr. Jason Denson of Ford of Dalton, local Ford dealer here in town, and we're going to discuss an issue concerning workforce development that's quite a challenge for us in the dealership world, and that concerns automotive technicians. I'm going to provide a brief overview of the issue, and then I'm going to kick it over to Mr. Denson to give some firsthand experience about what works for him and why it's such an important issue for all of us to be aware of. Mr. Chairman, if there's any time after, we'd be happy to entertain some questions, and then I'd be happy to go through some of the information in the pamphlet that we've distributed beforehand. With that, we can get started. What is GADA? Well, we are the trade association that represents the franchised new car and truck dealers in Georgia. We have about 500 dealership members who collectively employ almost 35,000 Georgians. One fact we're very proud of is that the average compensation for an employee at a new car dealership in Georgia is now over $90,000 per year. So those are strong middle-class jobs located throughout Georgia in all of our communities. Speaking of jobs, there are a number of opportunities at a franchise new car and truck dealership. Of course, there are folks who work in sales, like the traditional salesmen or women. There are folks who work in marketing. And these days, there are more and more people working in things that we call digital retailing, internet commerce. There are folks who work in the business operations side. And then there are folks who work on the back end, what we call fixed operations. That involves the parts department and the service department. So for us, our biggest workforce challenge is, and for some time has been, related to the service department concerning automotive technicians. What exactly is an automotive technician? Well, these days, it's much more than just a mechanic. These are very highly trained professionals whose job it is to diagnose what's wrong with our cars, to fix a vehicle when it needs repairs, and to perform regular maintenance as recommended by the manufacturer. These folks also utilize special tools. They are constantly being trained and retrained by the dealership and by the manufacturer, and they can make a very, very good living doing so. So what's the nature of the workforce development challenge with them? Simply put, there is more demand for repair services than there is a supply of technicians to perform them. I read a report recently that estimated that nationwide the shortage of automotive technicians is 800,000 throughout the country. That number is expected to increase to 900,000 by 2026. Why do we have such a supply-demand imbalance for automotive technicians? Well, there's a couple interesting factors at play. First, the vehicles that we are purchasing that are new these days are simply much more complex than they were generations ago. They come with all kinds of sophisticated systems and technology on board, and when these systems have a problem and need to be fixed, it simply takes folks time and resources to work it out. Another thing is that we as consumers are keeping our vehicles longer. The vehicles are being made better than they were generations ago, which is a good thing, and they're lasting longer, which is a good thing. But the longer we keep our vehicles, the more repair services those vehicles will ultimately need. The average age of a vehicle on the road in the United States today is 12 and a half years old. So that's the demand side. How about the supply side? Well, yeah, our profession experiences what many other professions do as well, which is natural attrition. These are folks who try their hand at being an automotive technician and then leave for whatever reason. We're probably not getting enough folks graduating from technical schools in this particular profession in Georgia. We're doing a great job, thanks to our friends with the technical college system, but nationwide, we're just not graduating enough. And one thing that's particularly relevant for our industry is that there is a pool of very experienced industry veterans who've been doing this for a long time. They're very efficient technicians. They're very proficient technicians. But a lot of them are in the baby boom generation. And those folks are reaching retirement, and it will be very difficult to replace them if some corrective action is not taken. So what will this ultimately mean if corrective action is not taken? Well, obviously it's going to have an impact on our members and their dealership operations. But for us consumers, I think we've grown accustomed to getting our car fixed quickly and efficiently and for competitive prices. From GADA's perspective, we certainly think that's a facet of the franchise dealership system, with a lot of independent dealers competing against each other for our consumers' businesses. But if corrective action is not taken, we're going to be frustrated as consumers when our vehicles are not repaired as timely as we're used to. So a lot of dealers are doing good work throughout Georgia in this to meet this challenge. Almost all of them probably are working with their local TCSG institution to address that. And one of the individuals who's doing a great job is with us today. So it's my pleasure to introduce you to our friend and GADA board member, Jason Denson from Fort of Dalton.
All right, thank you, Ben. I appreciate you guys hosting us today and having us today. Good morning, I'm Jason Denson, born and raised in Dalton, Georgia. I actually attended this college, Dalton State, but after my first year and a half, I left the school and got in the automobile business in 1997. 2018, I purchased my first dealership and renamed it Fort of Dalton, just south of here north of here on exit 336. As Ben mentioned, I serve on the Georgia Automobile Dealers Association Board of Directors and the Ford Dealer Advisory Board. And I've been an active member on several local and nonprofit organizations here around the Dalton-Whitfield area. My operations manager, John Upton, serves on the Georgia Northwestern Technical College Advisory Board for the College and Career Academy. At our dealership, we have 80 employees. 23 of those are technicians and another 25 support staff that also they're also technically trained. So 60% of my workforce has some sort of technical training or background. In 2022, we serviced and repaired 15,961 vehicles at that dealership. Approximately $3.5 million in sales, not including parts, just in services. We've now expanded that to offer remote services. So we have a remote technician that goes to people's homes and does work, can do recalls, can do basic oil changes. And if you would have let me know, and I understand we have some Ford F-150s represented here, we could have had them serviced in the parking lot today. But technicians, as you can see, are a vital part of our business. And with this field being in such high demand, we're constantly having to focus on keeping them well compensated, engaged, and up to date with all their technical training. Upon hiring them, we try to give them a career path during that interview process and a timeline to achieve these steps. This has really worked for us. They can see a roadmap. They can see what it looks like to start out, to see across the bay what one of those senior master technicians that may be one of the baby boomer generation that Ben mentioned, that this guy's making great money. How can I get to that point? We offer assistance in helping them purchase their tools and toolboxes. These tools and their boxes are a lifeline of their business. After period of time with our company, based on training and job performance, some of these tools can mostly become theirs at no cost to them. It was interesting, I was talking to some this week. I have 4 technicians that have over $100,000 in their tools and toolboxes. And you just think like, wow, I need to increase my insurance, I'm sure, to cover that. In 2021, the average median household income in Whitfield County was $53,000. As Ben mentioned also, our technicians and their support staff are some of the most highly compensated employees in our company, with several making over, just by themselves, over that $53,000 mark, and some making over six figures. How do we find these talented individuals? We try to start in the middle school level, being there for career days, special sponsorship. You know, people like cars. They like to talk about them. So we try to just be there and have a presence. Also, obviously, the Georgia Northwestern Career Academy, just to name a few. Something that we started 3 years ago is we partner with Junior Achievement of Northwest Georgia in their facility located at the Hammond Creek Middle School campus here in Dalton. We actually have a Ford of Dalton store front in that facility. In 2022, over 9,000 middle and high school students came through that facility. And these students are taught life skills from preparing a household budget to giving them simulated careers. One of our focused career paths in that area is based on a technical service career pathway. We send volunteers to serve in this space each month, working with these students, telling them about our company, telling them about the fields that we offer. And I fund this project 100% with the staff, the volunteer hours that they put in during our business hours, and offer other resources with no assistance from Ford Motor Company. What do I believe could be done to get more people interested in the technical careers? Just put a greater emphasis, and we've heard it a couple times, on the technical career pathway, starting at the middle school level, and having a statewide focus and importance, emphasis on how important these careers are today. Years ago, I read about a lady that was having some car trouble, broken down on the side of a busy highway, and she raised her hood of her car and quickly realized she knew nothing about what she was looking at. I thought it was interesting for her to mention she held several degrees in several fields, even holding a doctorate in one of those fields, and she described using the term uneducated to describe people that didn't hold such degrees. Someone like myself, I presume. Broken down with no help, she found herself calling repair shops trying to get someone to help her. Soon a man appeared and began to try to assist her to get her vehicle back up and running. Ended up being a simple fix from what I remember in that article, but maybe just a dead battery. But after he got her vehicle repaired, and as he pulled away, I remember reading this lady began to think, now who in this situation is uneducated? What a powerful story to hear about the importance of these jobs in our town, our state, and our country. I'll end by saying my 2 older children graduated from college already, and with a sophomore and freshman in high school, I've tried to drill into them that college isn't for everyone, but find a career to serve and find the field that has an excellent training program and go be good at it. Whatever it is, if it's sweeping floors, go be the best floor sweeper you can possibly have. So thank you again for your time today. Look forward to some questions.
Jason, thank you. A great presentation from both you and Ben, and thank you for employing people in the community and helping them out and giving them transportation. I was interested to learn that it's 12 and a half years that people are keeping cars now, and I just learned Senator Halpern's was that old, so we can get her in a new car, I'm sure, before she leaves Dalton.
Or service hers, either one.
Question for you, Jason. You know, in some areas of the state, we still have auto shop in high schools, but not nearly to the degree it was years ago. Do you have any of those in the surrounding high schools that you all are involved with or helping to recruit or participate in?
Not in high school. Oh, well, other than the College and Career Academy at over here on the Dalton bypass, they have a shop class there that's it's not a traditional high school, it's a technical school, but mostly not in the high schools. But we provide them with tools. We provide them with that particular school with shirts and hats and the like once a student expressed interest in our field, but not that I'm aware of.
Cherokee High School, which is an area that both Senator Beach and I both represent constituents for, has a pretty significant one, and I'd like to see that. And as we're working on our recommendations again, Haley, we need to, and I think it was mentioned earlier, to get those back into schools. Whatever it happens to be, to make sure we're getting more hands-on education. So thank you.
I don't. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't have a question so much as I just wanted to say that I appreciated what you were saying, though, about the middle schools. And I just wanted to kind of underscore that idea as well, that, no, we don't have enough of these kinds of programs in school at all, but maybe there's some thought around what level. Is it high school? Are we better served to get children when they're a bit younger as students, really at the point at which, they kind of should be starting to think about what path they may take in general?
Commissioner Dozier.
Yeah, I was just going to first thank y'all for the presentation, also all the support we get from all our industry partners, but you guys have also stepped up in that in many ways locally, but also globally when you look at the Ford Pass at Gwinnett Tech, but also up here, part of your question, Mr. Chairman, we do have a pretty robust dual enrollment pathway in automotive. And so we do try to help fill that with that partnership, but just great partners. And when you look across the technical college system, wouldn't be where we are in this area without them.
Thank you, Commissioner. And the technical college system is so critical. We need more folks going to your schools. Daniela?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. And Jason, thanks so much for the presentation. But, kind of on the list of best practices that employers should be doing, I think y'all are hitting all of them. Is there anything that you found that's really moving the needle, or is it one of those things that you feel like you've got to continue all of these pieces to continue to drive growth in every area?
Yeah, you're talking about on the service side of things and hiring. Yes, we're constantly looking for good talent. It seems like that's something we meet on and talk about on a weekly basis. Who do we have? Who has one foot out the door? What can we do to try to salvage that person? So we're constantly trying to make sure that we're in front of those situations before they leave, because if someone has technical background, they could leave and go become they could go to work at Home Depot repairing washing machines or what have you. So we try to create a culture to make sure, because as been mentioned, we almost 16,000 vehicles that we serviced last year. We can't afford to lose any one of those. And you ask about local, so the Career Academy of Northwest Georgia they have an automotive program in there. One of our former technicians teaches in that school. You stump me, I'm not good on my feet. So, but yes, we are in that program as well. Did that answer your question? Okay.
Dave?
Thank you, Chairman Albers. Question for you about the Junior Achievement Program. You mentioned that I think there were 9,000 students that came through there. Is that beyond Woodfield County? Is that like Northeast Georgia, or what's the geography that you pull from for that
great
experience?
Question. So we have the Northwest Georgia, so it's pulling from this area. There was one down at the World Congress Center as well. I know Delta has a place there. Actually, that's how I found out about it, was 2 weeks before Mr. Shaw put the endowment available for that facility to be built here in Dalton. But 2 weeks before that, my son in middle school at the time had gone down to the World Congress Center in Atlanta, and he came home, and he was, I think his career path was a pilot with Delta. And he came home talking about his budget that he had. And so I was like, this is unbelievable. And then 2 weeks later, they asked me to become a partner with them up here. But it is just the Northwest Georgia, and that was to keep those schools from having to go all the way down there. That has just, they are able to remain in our area.
Right. And there's, if I'm not mistaken, that's a number of those throughout the state. There's several
Yes.
facilities,
Yeah,
and more coming online.
Yeah, I think there's 4. I really wish they would have been here today with me because they're a great partner. I know they're building one in Savannah, I believe.
Yep.
So.
And then, if I may, Chairman, one last question. Can you talk just a little bit about the impact of in the transition to electric vehicles and what impact that may be having on your technicians and
Yeah, good question. So, you know, those electric vehicles have tires. They have windshield wipers just like the rest of them, and we actually service quite a few of those. There is some additional training that the technicians have to go through. You can't just easily go and just unplug the battery and start working on them. So they can be very dangerous at times. So they have to go through special training to be able to work on those vehicles. But this month alone, we've sold 4 electric vehicles from the Lightning, which I understand that you have, a couple of Mach-E's and some an electric transit van. So it's becoming more and more part of our day-to-day routine, even in a somewhat rural area like Dalton. But yes, there's still the technical piece of that because there is moving parts in it, and they will, at some point in time, not work the way that we want them to work. And so you're going to have people to be able to fix those.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Jason, Ben, and Bill, we appreciate everything GE does. All right. Next up, we'll have Q-Cells. Lisa, come on down.
Thank you for having us today. And I want to introduce Sharon Kwan. She's with my HR team here in the Dalton facility. So I want to begin by just introducing you, for those of you who don't know.
Would you hold the microphone up?
I'm
Thank
gonna-
you.
okay.
We need it because of the folks who are watching.
Oh, okay. Just introduce you to, just briefly, to Q-Cells for those that you who don't know. We manufacture solar panels, and this is a beautiful rendition of our factory that is in progress. The first slide of construction on the left-hand side. That will be the Cartersville facility, and we will manufacture both modules, wafers, and cells there, including ingots. The Dalton factory, you can see on the left-hand side, we manufacture solar panels, and we've been here in Whitfield County. We began manufacturing in 2019 with the first building in the background, and then you can see we just completed our second factory just this month. So we have created 2,000 jobs in Whitfield County. There'll be an additional 2,000 jobs in Bartow County, total of 4,000 clean energy jobs in the state of Georgia, with the exception, the next slide. So in addition to the 4,000 jobs that Q-Cells is creating, we are creating a complete ecosystem which will manufacture the raw materials that takes to create our product, because we want to make all of that manufacturing process domestic. We don't want to rely on any materials from foreign investors. So we are looking to do that. So our factories here in Dalton and Cartersville will create partnerships with these other companies, including some of our sister companies, Hanwha, who have already started manufacturing or construction in other areas in Georgia to support our factories. So, talking about workforce development, what we're here to talk about, all of those jobs that we have created here in the state of Georgia, which Q-Cells, we are very excited to be in Georgia. I'm very excited because I'm a Georgia native and 3 generation of manufacturing. And I can tell you that manufacturing jobs today, the workforce in manufacturing is not my dad's manufacturing. And I think everyone mentioned someone mentioned earlier, it's not as putting up a job advertisement or putting up having a job fair. Those are not working. When we opened our first factory in 2019, we hired 700 people in 2 months. We had over 400 people show up for job fairs. Now, job fairs, you're attracting, if you're lucky, 50 people, if you're lucky. So what we're doing and what we're investing in, and someone else mentioned middle school. We are investing as early as middle school, and how do we get kids interested in manufacturing? 4-year educations, as everyone has mentioned, that's great, but we want them to understand that whether they go to 4-year secondary schools or technical schools or just right out of high school, that there are career opportunities in manufacturing, and not just jobs, traditional jobs. They're robotics jobs. The largest, the survey that was recently done with economic development in the state of Georgia, the number one jobs searched in Georgia now are machine operators, but it's mechatronics and robotics. Those are very critical. So we want to get kids interested. Frankly speaking, I think it has to start before middle school. We are investing, my daughter's a 4th grade teacher, and she teaches kaleidoscope. And part of that kaleidoscope touches 2nd and 3rd grade. And I said, in your kaleidoscope, are you talking about career opportunities? And she said, yes, we're promoting them because those are the students that are going to go to college. And I said, are you introducing them to other opportunities? So I would like to see, and we are starting to work with elementary schools. We have host tours for elementary schools because we want to see more interest from the schools in promoting more of we work with the counselors, the school's counselors. We've had every school counselor in Whitfield County come through, and Dalton school system, and Gordon County come through our factory so they can see what opportunities are available to promote them. Some of the things that we need in order to make to fill those jobs are transportation, housing, branding Georgia as a place to work, daycare. Those are all the things, but what I want to talk about is we need to get away from we promote that the unemployment rate is so low for Georgia, which that's a great thing for headlines. However, that's not great for we're creating all of these jobs, but what that means is when the UI rate is that low, the employers here today, we're all just taking from each other. So I'm not recruiting unemployed people. I'm recruiting people. Sorry, everybody. I'm recruiting people that are working somewhere else. And so that means that myself or Mohawk or Shaw or all of the other employers, we are investing in training and development, and then they're going to leave and go to another employer. So what we need to do collectively is brand Georgia in the states that are seeing downticks in jobs. Brand Georgia as a place for people to come, because the elementary and middle school are great for the future workers, but for right now, these jobs are here now. And in order to meet that need, so going back to transportation, the high school graduates that we see, we want to keep this population, not just attract new population. We want to keep the population, but what we're seeing is, as employers, that they want to move to more urbanized areas. So where the jobs are, better transportation, affordable housing, those are things that we are, we're seeing that really need a focus. And I'd like to, close and then open it up for questions by saying that every job that you know, every job from service industry. My husband's in the automotive industry, and my dad was in aerospace. My mom was in textiles. All of these, my brother's in education, my daughter's in education. All of these jobs are important. But what we need to do is we have to understand that every job, no matter what job it is, and I think someone said it best with the situation with the car not working, is when I was younger, I wanted to be a pilot. My dad worked for Lockheed. He was an engineer, and when I asked him what he did, he said he made airplanes. And I said, well, I want to fly an airplane. And he reminded me, well, you know, you really can't fly an airplane without somebody making it. And that's always stuck with me, and I think we forget that it is the person on the line and those people making our products, those people serving our food, those are the missed population because of this transportation, because of the lack of affordable housing. And so it's impossible for us to employ those people. So I'm open for questions.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the presentation and your very significant investment in the community. We appreciate that. Questions from the committee members? Daniela.
Lisa, thank you so much for being with us, and again for QSAL's huge investment in Northwest Georgia. But I was wondering if you kind of talk a little bit more kind of about the sheer volume of, you know, people that you're trying to employ now. I know you talk so much about kind of that future workforce pipeline you're developing, but just kind of the, you know, again, the sheer volume of people you're trying to bring online so that you can keep operations on pace.
Sure. So we hired 1,000 people, and we began this year with hiring another 1,000. We're around 80% to our goal, and that last 20% truly is a struggle. Sometimes it feels like you're running in quicksand because you're filling the same job just over and over and over because, again, we're competing for the same population of workers. Our Cartersville factory, we're still in construction, but we've already began the recruiting for that. And by January, we'll have roughly around 200 people, but by first quarter, we'll have over 800 people in that factory. By the end of the year, we hope to have 2,000 people. But again, when we talk about we're hiring, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, that was such a positive thing because you were taking people unemployed and putting them to work. But now when we're hiring people, that challenge is, again, we're having to be so creative. You're paying hiring bonuses. You're having people at events that you wouldn't know, giving out coffee and, you know, come have coffee with us. Come meet our team. All of these things that we really are investing in just to try to get that interest, that traffic. And it's so many things. There's not just one thing that works anymore. But the 2,000 people by the end of the year next year for the Cartersville factory. And then, you know, we will have expansions after that as well.
Lisa, thank you for your investment in Georgia. We appreciate the jobs. That's great. 2 questions. One, are the principals receptive to you promoting manufacturing jobs in the middle schools? And then secondly, being so close to the Tennessee line, are you pulling from Tennessee employees?
Yes. So principals, we've had principals in our factory for the tours. So the entire school system, the thing that Georgia does, like I've lived in multiple states and am a proud Georgian. We do education right. That is the one thing that not the only thing, but is the one thing. Educators are interested in having employers in their schools. They're interested in engaging. It's just the message at home is, and the message collectively is, these are the jobs available, but there's still that stigma for manufacturing and service industry that if you're not going to college, you're going to, as a last resort, you're going to be working in a, in a factory. And that's the stigma we have to take away, and educating educators that instead of saying, here's your last option, it needs to be at the top of the list. Here are your options, college and, not college or.
And what about Tennessee?
Tennessee, I apologize. So Tennessee, we work really closely with schools in Tennessee. I think someone even mentioned earlier, Kennesaw State and GNC Chattanooga have been our top recruiting locations. But even for elementary and middle schools as well.
Any further questions? Thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it. Next up, we're going to have ACT. Fred, if you want to come on down. And when he's getting ready to talk, I want to remind people we've got some good breakfast over there and some coffee and some tea and some waters and other things. And I will turn it over to you and take us away. I'm going to get some fresh coffee.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Senator Albers and the committee for the invitation today. My name is Fred McConnell, Senior Director of Workforce at ACT. It's my pleasure today to talk with you about ACT Work-Ready Communities. Before we go too much farther, however, I did want to clarify that, yes, this is the same nonprofit ACT that delivers the college entrance exam that so many people are familiar with. What fewer people are familiar with is that since the early 1990s, ACT has been delivering a work readiness assessment called WorkKeys. This assessment is really developed based upon employer demand and employer needs. For a long time, probably the first 10, 15 years, WorkKeys was solely focused on the interaction between an employer looking to hire an individual with the right skills and that job seeker. It wasn't until around 2007 that one state in particular came along and changed the workforce conversation, changed the game, and really started pioneering a new way for workforce development to start being discussed as an economic development proposal. Some may have guessed it, but that state was actually the state of Georgia. You may recognize the logo up here. If you've done any driving around the rural areas of the state, you've probably seen one of these road signs. In fact, if you've gone on 46, going into Metter, Georgia, coming in from the east, I actually helped put that sign up because it was my great pleasure to work with then Governor Sonny Perdue in 2006 through 2011 to really employ and develop and put out his workforce development system. Georgia Work Ready was the first state in the country to really start seeing how are we going to compete with our other states? How are we going to show that the workforce in our state is the best that there is? So Governor Perdue and his initiative at the end of that 4-year period had 146 of the 159 counties certified. It really became a best practice immediately recognized across the country. There are challenges, however, though, when it comes to governor-led initiative. One, it's governor-led. When you have a governor change office, sometimes the initiatives and those priorities change. We also were really entering a workforce development area that was in its infancy being discussed. Economic development was about tax incentives, rail, power, the sites. Workforce development was not a huge conversation at that point yet. Now today, to have a workforce committee completely has changed the entire environment of how employers look to try to find out where they're going to locate, where they need their jobs, and who's going to help them supply those jobs going into the future. So after Georgia Work Ready, we had one major challenge. We asked, of course, they were using ACT WorkKeys at the time, to be their building blocks for developing and showing what our workforce looked like. Big issue was, I remember the day it happened, an employer came in from Germany. We were in the Dublin area. They said, well, this is a great initiative, this is a great campaign, we like the idea. Well, who really set up these standards? Who set up these goals? Be it a state-led initiative, we said, well, we did. We love this, but I remember them saying, well, isn't that a little bit like giving yourself a gold star? How do we know that you didn't make the goals so that you knew you'd be successful? And we said, you got something there. So at that time, we actually turned around to ACT, our partner at the time, and said, ACT, with your 30, 40 years of research and backing, we think you should be helping us determine what the national standard for the ACT work-ready community looks like. That way we can compare our communities to any other community around the country to show what our workforce looks like and how it can compare. So in 2012, ACT did just that. All ACT work-ready communities all agreed to the same standard practice. Again, we want to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, when it's the individuals or when it's the actual communities. All work-ready communities agree to have a certain percentage of their emerging, current, and transitioning workforce earn a WorkKeys assessment, or what is called your acronym of the day, an NCRC, the National Career Readiness Certificate. We also have to build employers. That's the beginning of that pipeline. If we're going to build a pipeline from your students, through your community and technical colleges, through your workforce boards, to your four-year colleges, to your employers, you have to make sure that you have your starting point and your ending point. The biggest piece of all of this, though, is creating that common language. We were talking a little bit earlier about this. We've heard from a lot of high schools that say, well, if the employers would just tell us, what do you want in a student in order for them to be successful? And if they tell us in our terms and things that we understand, then maybe we can provide it. Flip it over, the employers say, well, if the education entities would just tell us what they can provide us in terms that we understand, maybe we can do something. In these communities, what their community is doing is creating that common language. How do you know an individual's work readiness skills from high school up to community colleges and technical colleges, through their workforce boards, to the employers? Once you're talking the same language, then you're really able to see the impact and be able to see, well, where are our gaps? How do we improve these areas of need? How do we make sure that we are providing a good workforce pipeline that allows students to benchmark their skill sets with every credential they receive, every degree they receive, but we make sure that their skills are increasing along with those initiatives. WorkKeys, of course, made up of assessments. The NCRC we covered earlier, which is the building block for ACT work-ready communities. We have curriculum, but I think the biggest part of this is that job profile piece. ACT has gone out to over 30,000 employers over the past 30 years, talked with them, asked them, what do you need an individual to be successful? And that's what really influences and makes sure that our assessment are asking individuals what the best skill sets are to make sure they meet employer needs. Through those profiles, we found that 80% of all jobs we have ever profiled over the past 30 years require these skills on a daily basis: applied math, graphic literacy, and workplace documents. The big difference is, so let's talk K-12 versus a workplace area. So in ACT, I can do this. In the ACT world, you're asking about reading. We might do a Edgar Allan Poe reading and figure out what is the message it's trying to tell us. In workforce world, it's going to ask you, how do you drive a forklift? You have to read the manual, be able to interpret the data, and be able to drive that forklift. In the math world, as a liberal arts major, they're going to ask you to start putting letters into your math. That's heresy. I don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to me. But if you put it into real world terms of you are a contractor trying to resurface the floor of a gym, a bucket of paint covers it 20 by 20 feet. The gym is 200 by 400 feet. How many buckets of paint do you need? It puts those learned skills into real world applications. So today we stand at almost 6 million NCRCs delivered. It is a nationally recognized credential with digital badges out there now. It is transportable between states. A gold certificate in Georgia means the same thing as a gold certificate in Tennessee, South Carolina, Alabama, or Hawaii. We have 28,000 employers who are requiring or recognizing the NCRC, and over 2 million WorkKeys assessments are conducted every year. So how does that really help us when it comes to economic development? Linking our education and our workforce together to align to economic development needs of a state or its regions. The secret sauce in work-ready communities is the communities themselves. What ACT is providing is the data. We now know what the individual community looks like when it comes to their workforce. We have an infrastructure that we've learned from other work-ready communities that have launched, but the secret sauce is the community themselves. We have 541 communities that have launched over the past 10 years. All 541 go about this differently because they are different communities, they have different needs, they have different strengths and weaknesses. We want to make sure that all of these participating partners and work-ready communities are involved. You cannot have a work-ready community be successful if it's one group trying to do it by themselves. I'll go back to my early days in my family's old stomping grounds in Cairo, Georgia, if anybody's familiar with it. I had some folks in the room that I was familiar with. They all had their mission statements, but they were all pulling in different directions. We talked about their mission statements and said, well, they're all kind of saying the same thing, just with different terms. What if you had a common language to really connect all those things together? After a little bit of arguing, they had their kumbaya moment, and they started pulling in the same direction. And once you start seeing that language established and understand how that creates the benchmarks for individuals through your pipeline, then you can start seeing where every individual group plays within that pipeline. Being ACT, we have years and years of research to back up what we see in these communities and what we see with WorkKeys. For employers, of course, we see them reduce turnover, boost productivity, and of course, reduce training time. For the educators, it helps them and helps their students understand what actual skills are needed to do a job successfully. If they want to be a mechanic and they're in the 11th grade, well, you're going to need a gold certificate in order to be a mechanic. You're currently at a silver. You're going to have to get some certifications along the way, but you're also going to have to improve your skill set to make sure that you go into that position knowing exactly how to do that job. For your learners, it helps them learn and work sooner. It helps them work longer. It also, and I think this is overlooked, helps them build confidence. Individuals who say, well, I've been out of the workforce for 10, 15 years, I must not have the skills necessary to be successful. You'll be surprised how many individuals go in, take the assessment and say, man, I got a silver certificate? I would have never thought. What does that mean I can do? Oh, I can go in Georgia and actually get a $50,000 job as a car mechanic? That changes the attitudes, it changes life trajectories, and it changes narratives. And then last but certainly not least, for economic development piece, how does all of this put together? How does this allow communities to say to prospective and current employers, we have the employees you need to be successful today and 10, 15 years in the future, because we have done the alignment between what our workforce actually looks like now and what we think your workforce will look like 15 years in the future. We knew we were onto something when the Site Selection Magazine started using the ACT NCRC as its workforce development metric in its yearly State of the State and workforce rankings. So coming full circle, where we were in 2007, I, as a much younger man, going to all 159 counties at least once, and having the time of my life pushing an incredible workforce initiative by then Governor Perdue, we have now grown that initiative to 32 states and the territory of Guam. All of these states are now able to go individually and say, we can compare apples to apples, not only our individual students for where their workforce skills are, but we can start comparing apples to apples of communities to one another. And you're going to those RFPs, site selectors. How do we know you have the workforce needed to do what we need you to do? This is an interactive map that's on our website that allows you to go in individual to each community, see how many NCRCs they have, what level they've earned, and how that matches to an employer. The timing of this is excellent because as of last week, you heard me say earlier that after the governor's initiative went dormant in about 2011 when he changed office, last week we actually launched our first 4 new work-ready communities in the state of Georgia. Bibb County, Peach County, Houston, and Pulaski. We had 11 counties in the central Georgia part of the state join what is called a boot camp. Every single work-ready community that signs up goes through the same 16 hours to make sure that all are the same level playing field, where we train them how to launch, sustain, and grow a work-ready community. We have 7 more that will launch, hopefully by 2024. And this really has been a huge step, being that what you've seen earlier is that while we didn't have official work-ready communities continuing in the state of Georgia, the infrastructure and what was established by the employers in accepting NCRCs is still there. Being that Bibb County and Houston County just launched, Bibb County already being at 96% of goals, Houston County being 87% of goals. The infrastructure is there, the fabric which makes a work-ready community is there, and we're seeing them be successful in a very short period of time. So again, I want to thank you all for your time today. Of course, looking forward to your questions.
Wow, excellent update. Hopefully you'll continue to expand back in Georgia to all the other counties now that you're back home where we need you to be.
Oh, yeah.
Noticed that Hawaii was a little bit behind, though. I'm willing to make a site visit with you if need be to help them out.
Get in line on that one because just about everybody at ACT is trying to get that Hawaii one. It has been, the Guam one's a little far. The Guam, no one's made that site visit yet, but Hawaii's next.
Fair enough. Outstanding work. Questions from the committee members?
Thank you. So on the learner side, or the people actually becoming certified,
Yes, ma'am.
what is the average age or experience level, or are these people who are literally starting careers? Are these folks who are more mid-career? Just give us a little bit of a profile of the person.
Of course. Great question. Because this isn't a one-time like the ACT where you're taking that assessment one time right before you enter college. WorkKeys is designed basically for anybody that is trying to transition jobs, start a new job, get back in the workforce, anywhere from 11th grade, sometimes as early as 10th grade, all the way up to someone trying to come out of retirement, going to go back to work. Because it is trying to measure based upon actual work skills, if they're looking for a job and they need that confidence boost and they need that identifier, they can come in at any point. I would say a majority of our test takers right now are usually that 11th to 12th grade. We also have a very high population in our community and technical colleges that are in that trying to find my next job, trying to find my first job. How do I match up to local employers, being able to see what they need for me to be successful at their workplace and match their skills to those individual jobs?
And I'll tell you, Fred, I think one of the things you brought up about the seniors coming back into the workforce is critical as well. I mean, we've got a massive part of the workforce that is some of the most responsible and skilled, but their skills, again, from their perspective, sometimes may or may not apply. We need them back in the workforce, and candidly, with 40-year high inflation in the stock market that's been pretty rough the last year and a half, 2 years, they need to work, and we need them as workers. So thank you for helping us connect the dots.
Of course.
Any other questions? Great job. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. Next up, Shaw Industries. Come on down. Brian, I think you're going to present to us this morning. Take us away.
Chairman Albers and distinguished members of the study committee, thank you for the opportunity to be with you today. My name is Brian Cooksey, and I am the Director of Workforce Development for Shaw Industries. On behalf of our outstanding Shaw associates and our President and CEO, Tim Balcom, I'd like to welcome you all to Dalton and Whitfield County and the floor covering capital of the world. Thank you for focusing on this important topic. Georgia has always been a great place to live and work, and our company is proud to call Georgia home. And since our founding, one of the keys to our success has always been attracting, developing, and retaining a talented workforce. So this is a very important topic to us. I'd like to share with you a little bit about Shaw, just to give you some background. Shaw was founded here in North Georgia more than a century ago. We have built on our legacy in carpet manufacturing to become a $6.5 billion global flooring and turf provider, offering solutions for every possible place and space for residential and commercial properties around the world. Simply put, if you can walk on it, we make it. Of our 20,000 associates, over 13,000 of them live and work here in Georgia. Of course, we're headquartered here in Dalton and have a large presence across northwest Georgia, but also have operations in numerous other communities across the state. Whoop, my slides are not there. They're changing, but they're not. All right, let's see. Sorry, went the wrong way. Oh, one more. There we go. Okay. From a talent standpoint, Shaw has diverse talent needs that span across many segments, including information technology, engineering, supply chain, business, sales and marketing, data analytics, production, design, robotics, nursing, and many other fields. We're a company of makers and innovators. We desire to employ individuals who want to build a career, not just find a job. Our business has invested over $1.5 billion back into our company over the past couple of years. This investment has resulted in new technologies, systems, and automation across the enterprise. Every hourly job at Shaw is engaging with technology in new ways, using data to make decisions, and working side by side with automation and robotics. Our use of automation and robotics is focused on eliminating repetitive tasks, further improving safety, and enabling our associates to be decision makers rather than using their physical attributes. While we have many diverse careers, our top talent needs at Shaw today include, on the hourly side, production, industrial maintenance, and transportation, and on the salaried side, engineers, automation-related roles, data analytics, and information technology. So I'd like to share a few things with you around what's working for us today in terms of workforce development. First, apprenticeships in partnership with our TCSG partners. Shaw is using the registered apprenticeship model through the technical college system to upskill existing associates into industrial maintenance roles. This model creates new opportunities for those associates to grow their career and earn additional income and learn new skills, and also enables us to employ individuals to backfill those roles that they're coming from in production. We're currently using apprenticeships not only here in Georgia but also in South Carolina, but we desire to continue to grow our apprenticeships over the next few years. In addition to that, Shaw is leveraging FIRST Robotics to engage with K-12 students in hands-on ways. This platform provides us with an opportunity to mentor students and expose them to skills and careers that they were not thinking about in the past. FIRST is helping us build a pipeline of talent for engineers, technicians, and programmers, talent that is becoming interns, co-ops, and full-time hires with our company. The students in FIRST Robotics are learning problem solving, troubleshooting, and teamwork skills that are needed by our industry. In addition to FIRST Robotics, there are several other education partnerships that are providing beneficial success for us in workforce development. One of those is college and career academies. Shaw currently works with 5 college and career academies in Northwest Georgia. We have associates who serve on governing boards and help drive strategic plans for these schools every day to focus on workforce needs in those communities. College and career academies provide industry with a seat at the table to influence the educational programs and the credentials that students are receiving. We leverage these partnerships to build relationships with students, identify work-based learning opportunities, and engage with pathways to share our career messages. Another education partnership that's working for us is manufacturing education through CTAE. The Georgia Department of Education has invested in manufacturing pathways recently. During the last school year, the Department of Education awarded $4.5 million to 12 schools through the SME Prime program to expand and update manufacturing pathways across our state. This funding has helped update manufacturing labs and brought industry to the table to make industry-driven decisions on the curriculum and credentials that students will earn. We appreciate the DOE's investment, and we need to continue that. That's only 12 communities, but there are a lot more needs around our state. Additionally, the Department of Education will soon be introducing, for the first time, elementary level manufacturing career education, which we're excited about. In addition, one last education partnership I'd like to highlight is right here at Dalton State College. At the USG level, Shaw has worked with Dalton State to develop a 4-year engineering technology degree. This Bachelor's of Applied Science program has enabled individuals with a 2-year TCSG degree to seamlessly complete their 4-year engineering degree at Dalton State. This has helped provide a platform for existing associates who have a 2-year degree to enable them to stay with our company while continuing to advance by earning their engineering degree, and as well as also allowed local students from our K-12 system to complete their engineering degree locally at a very cost-affordable rate. Having these laddered and articulated programs is a great best practice to continue between TCSG and our USG system. And finally, another program that's working right now is Second Chance Employment. 40% of Georgia's population has a criminal record, and Georgia is in the top 5 states for most residents with a felony conviction. Historically, the unemployment rate within the Second Chance community can be as high as 27 to 30%. As a Second Chance employer, Shaw has established almost a dozen community partnerships with local and state level organizations that are connecting us with talent in this space. Talent that has been justice involved, homeless, is overcoming addiction, or facing other life challenges. The second chance talent that we're finding is ready to create a better future for themselves by going to work. We have found a strong retention rate within this population, and we're excited to see many of these individuals grow with our company. This type of program is a win for Shaw, a win for the individual, a win for our communities, and a win for the state of Georgia. I'd also like to share with you a few challenges that we're facing in the world of workforce today. As we discussed earlier, the world of work at Shaw is ever changing. But we're also seeing a change in the desires and needs of the labor pool that we're recruiting today. 32% of the labor force desires some amount of remote work. 17% of the labor force desires part-time work. Many millennials and Generation Z are showing a desire for short-time job assignments or gig-type jobs rather than full-time jobs. And individuals are also desiring a lot more flexibility in schedules and flexibility to adapt to life challenges. These changes, along with the decline in birth rates and labor participation rate, continue to make it challenging for manufacturers to maintain talent levels. As a company, however, we are adapting and adjusting as quickly as possible to engage with today's labor force. We are working to keep our talent funnel as wide as it can be through improving our flexibility options, and as I mentioned, continuing to engage with traditionally underserved or untapped talent populations, such as justice-involved individuals, homeless individuals, refugee populations, veterans, those with disabilities, and other talent pools. To be more flexible for talent, we are leveraging apps to provide shift swapping options. We are offering part-time roles, more of those than ever before. We're using services that provide gig or short-term work assignments for those that want to work when they want to work. We have adapted our policies to continue to be more flexible for life challenges and for allowing folks to address the obstacles they might face in their life. In addition to the new world of work, in rural communities where Shaw operates all of our manufacturing facilities, we continue to see challenges with applicants and associates related to child care, transportation, and housing. In every location where we have manufacturing operations, there are limited public transportation options. Child care centers are also facing labor challenges and are unable to currently meet non-traditional work hour needs for child care. Available and affordable housing is also challenging in many of those communities. In each of these areas, Shaw is exploring what we can do as a company for our associates, and we also continue to be involved in local community conversations. As more and more jobs come to our state, these three areas will continue to be a challenge across Georgia. As I close my remarks, I'd like to offer a few suggestions for you to consider as you continue to do your great work. First, related to apprenticeships. In 2022, the Senate passed Senate Bill 379, which established the High Demand Career Initiative Apprenticeship Program. We are thankful for the state's investment in apprenticeships because they are working. This program can grow and be improved, however. One challenge for Shaw is that we have multiple locations across the state, but the HDCI program limits companies to only 5 apprenticeships per company. Additionally, there's an opportunity to also include pre-apprenticeships in the program to allow high school students who are working as apprentices to learn a skill or trade. I'd recommend that the state reduce the available funds per apprenticeship to a lower amount, but add additional flexibility to the program. We'd be glad to work with TCSG to help establish some of these parameters that will incentivize more engagement in this program. College and career academies. Georgia has over 50 of those across the state, but more communities desire to have this workforce-driven model. In past years, the General Assembly has funded a competitive grant process that brings communities and industry together to establish a college and career academy. This past year, only 1 grant was funded, but 4 communities were competing. I'd encourage you to continue to expand college and career academies into communities who are willing to commit to this best practice by funding more of those college and career academy grants. Support for Second Chance and refugee individuals. Continue our efforts in Georgia to support individuals from the Second Chance community, as well as those who are refugees in our state who desire to enter the workforce. This program includes providing GED and job skills training prior to someone being released from prison, providing support services such as counseling after they are released, and helping with document support services, speeding up the process for these individuals to be able to obtain the documents that they need to be able to go to work. Also, what can we do as a state to encourage more employers to consider working with these individuals from underserved populations? The next thing I'd like to suggest is robotics programming with FIRST Robotics. With all the advanced manufacturing jobs in our state and those coming to our state over the next few years, we need more programs like FIRST Robotics in Georgia. These programs span the K-12 spectrum and provide experiences for students to apply their math and science skills to real-world problems. Students learn problem-solving, collaboration, and time management skills. At the high school level, they also learn technical skills such as CAD design, fabrication, programming, and other relevant skills that are much needed in our companies. These programs exist in Georgia today largely because of private sector funding. We are behind other states such as Michigan, North Carolina, and Texas that are providing state-level funding to help grow and expand these programs across their state to more and more students. And finally, regional infrastructure challenges. As we discussed, in many of our rural communities where Shaw operates, transportation and child care are obstacles for many people in the labor force. The Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning recently awarded the Georgia Association of Manufacturers a child care grant to pilot non-traditional child care solutions in 14 communities across our state. In these 14 communities, manufacturing companies and local child care providers will work together to explore various solutions. The goal is to find what can move the needle so that plans can be made to permanently implement effective solutions. Could a similar pilot program also be used to explore public-private partnership options to solve transportation challenges in these areas? And are there other options that could also be done to encourage public-private partnership solutions for things like housing? I appreciate your time today, and thank you for the work you're doing, and would welcome any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Brian. I think there's a couple questions. You mentioned about the limiting to 5 apprentices. That kind of seems like a no-brainer for us to modify that one. And then what you're saying is maybe we could use the existing budget, but just giving a little more flexibility. I want to make sure I captured your words correctly.
Yes, sir. There have been other apprenticeship options as well. I think some of those have been federally funded. Obviously, the one I mentioned was a state-controlled solution. It offers, based on the length of the apprenticeship, a tiered model of funding that starts at $5,000, $7,500, or $10,000 per apprentice. So what we found is we don't necessarily need that much money. We would rather that money be used to pay for tuition of some of the fees at the college. But as an employer, we're paying folks to go get that education. We're buying tools for our folks. We're providing steel-toed shoes, uniforms, different things like that. So there's a lot of investment we have plus the tuition. So this, again, it's a public-private type partnership to help with these things. So we think you could lower that top-level investment, which would expand the opportunity without creating more budget.
I think the commissioner might have a little context for us.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mr. Chairman, we'd be happy to work with you. As just a recollection, that was a new initiative put in 2 sessions ago. We launched it this year. Those tiers are set just by policy at TCSG, so we can work with you on those tiers. The companies are limited to 5 based on reimbursement. This money was specifically put in the budget to assist the companies with the cost of the company on having an apprenticeship. So just when we say it's limited to 5, it's based on reimbursement to the company who applied for that cost internally. There's no limit on number of apprenticeships across companies. We also have 2 other funding opportunities for the actual cost of training. So when you look at those, obviously I'll sit down, we won't spend a ton of time, but we have the federal funding that comes in, and then we had some one-time CARES money that came in for actually training of the individuals beyond just the mentorship cost and company cost for the employers. But love the program. I think it's widely successful, and love to kind of match up what makes the best sense. And if we can do more with less, I think that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, apprenticeships are working, so we're certainly in favor of continuing that, and we appreciate what y'all have done so far.
Well, thank you, Ryan, and thank you for the jobs y'all create with Shaw and what you do for our state. My question is on the Second Chance program. Are you working with the wardens at prisons or the parole board? How are you finding these folks coming out of prison?
Yes, sir. We work directly with the Department of Corrections, both at a state level as well as our local prisons where we have operations. We also are working with nonprofit groups throughout the state that are serving individuals who are coming out of prison, who are looking to find housing, get a job, provide support services. So it's a combination of directly with the prison system, but also with nonprofits who are servicing that population.
Second question, are they pretty loyal employees if they come in and get into a job and do well?
We are finding tremendous success with this program. I mean, well over a 75% retention rate with folks beyond 90 days, which if we can get someone to stay with us beyond 90 days, we usually have them a long time at Shaw. So we're having great success in seeing these folks come in with a desire to work. Like any population, you're not going to be 100% successful, but we've found a lot of folks, because we work with these community partners, they know their folks well, they know when they're ready to go to work, and they're connecting them with us, and we're providing that platform to give them a job to help. If they can't find a job, that's a big obstacle to being able to turn your life around. But if you can find a good paying job, you can find housing, you can rehabilitate your life, you can reconnect with your family, you can do all these different things, but that job is a big challenge.
Other questions to committee members? Seeing none. Brian, thank you very much. Great presentation today.
Thank you so much.
All right, and going to bring us home here, we've got the Georgia Alliance for Career Education. We have 2 GACEs today, ironically enough. Mark and Bob, come on down. We'll look forward to hearing from you.
Good afternoon, everybody. We want to thank you, Chairman Albers, for having us today. Committee members, we thank you for your time. We don't have a presentation today, but we've instead prepared some remarks that we'll just kind of read through to ensure brevity. I think we probably stand not only between the committee and adjournment, but probably lunch as well. So we will try to be brief and then get to any questions that you might have for Bob or I at the end of our remarks. Again, my name is Mark Williams. I have the pleasure of serving as the president at Fortis College, that's F-O-R-T-I-S, Fortis College, located in Smyrna, Georgia. We operate out of a 45,000 square foot facility right in the heart of Smyrna on South Cobb Drive. Since its inception in 1969 as then Medics College, and then with the change to Fortis College in 2011, we've been focused on providing post-secondary education to both traditional and non-traditional students through a variety of skilled trades and allied health diploma and degree programs. This includes training future qualified employees in the high-demand allied health fields of medical assisting, dental assisting, dental hygiene, and radiologic technology. What we believe at Fortis College is that what we get the opportunity to do every day with our students not only makes a difference for them, their families, and their futures, but we think that ultimately it makes a significant contribution to the economic growth and social well-being of our local community and to the state of Georgia at large. So with that in mind, we certainly appreciate the committee's focus on the state's workforce challenges, including the need to examine the healthcare workforce issues that are not only being experienced in the state of Georgia, but in the United States at large. Quite frankly, the studies are everywhere, right? So that's not new information to folks on the committee. The three things that are driving the decline in the healthcare workforce community, as you probably know, aging population, folks who are aging out in the healthcare sector and retiring, and then especially what we've all been through in the last 3 years, people are leaving because of burnout and retiring or seeking other avenues of employment. Just really quickly, Again, studies are everywhere, but in May of 2023, the HRSA, the Health Resources and Services Administration, examined this issue. And in areas where healthcare workforce shortage has been identified in the United States, there's a need for more than 17,000 additional primary care practitioners, 12,000 dental assistant practitioners, and 8,200 mental health practitioners. And so we know that, again, that's not new information. That's information that's out there for everybody. But this healthcare worker shortage is a multifaceted issue, and stakeholders at every level have got to work together because in silos we can't educate and train enough healthcare workers fast enough to meet this challenge. So the last thing I'd say is just in our effort at Fortis College, we partner with over 140 doctors' offices, dental offices, medical laboratories, healthcare facilities, major hospital systems like Piedmont, Children's Healthcare of Atlanta. And through these employer partnerships, we not only provide on-the-job experiences for our students, but ultimately that education process turns into an opportunity for those students to be employed with that employer partner, or certainly it ensures that they acquire the skills that align with the evolving needs of the healthcare industry. So in concluding my remarks, I just say to the committee that through Fortis College and the Georgia Alliance of Career Education, you have partners who are ready and willing to work with you to help make sure that we're meeting physicians' needs, dentists' needs, and our healthcare system's needs in the communities that we all serve. And I'll turn it to Bob.
Thank you. And thank you, Senator Albers, for the opportunity to speak to the committee. I'll start to tell you a little bit about my background. I grew up in the Marietta area. Graduated high school. There was really two options. You either go in the college or you go in the military. Wasn't a very gifted student, so I went in the military. Had the honor of serving aboard 2 nuclear-powered submarines. Got out of the military, went to Chattahoochee Tech, studied the HVAC program. Entered the field, made a good living, worked my way up. Field technician, field supervisor, service manager, operations manager, eventually vice president, and had the opportunity to start purchasing equity in the company I was working for. We sold that company in 2019 to a private equity company. Stayed on board for a couple years and then decided I'd do other stuff. Earlier in my career, I worked part-time with the Mechanical Trades Institute, which is the local Union 72 apprenticeship program in the Atlanta area. Taught down there for 7 years, and I actually taught as an adjunct instructor from 1921 to 23 at Chattahoochee Tech. Spent the last 10 months before joining Lincoln Tech working, setting up apprenticeship programs with mechanical contractors across the U.S. I was working with working with a peer network and a talent development company in which set up registered apprenticeship programs throughout the country. At Lincoln Tech, I've been there since August, so relatively new in the position. Lincoln provides training, job-ready skills in just 1 year. If you're not aware, Lincoln Tech's been around, just celebrated its 77th anniversary. They got 22 campuses throughout the U.S., and after the first of the year, we're opening a campus down in the East Point area. The Marietta campus, where I work at, has been open for 17 years. We offer career training programs in medical assistant, electrical, and heating and air conditioning. Obviously, what I'll be talking about is the heating and air conditioning side of it. At the Marietta campus, we currently have about 350 students, 140 of them in the HVAC department. Our students tend to be adult learners. Average age is 33 years old. About 20 to 25% of our students are veterans. I won't spend too much time, hashing over the skilled labor gap. A lot of people's talked about it, but just highlight the problem in my industry alone. We need to recruit over 41,000 HVAC technicians. year over year for the next 10 years to meet the projected demand by the Bureau of Labor and Statistics. The HVAC department at Chattahoochee, we bring in about 40 new students every month. Our curriculum allows for multiple entry points, and it's structured with 10 separate modules, different classes covering various subjects. We use a blended program, so a portion of the coursework is done at home, online with the students, and then a portion of it is in person. The students go to school 4 days a week, about 5 hours a day, and they're all required to get the EPA 608 certification for safe handling of refrigerant, along with the OSHA 30 certifications. And really the goal is to make each student work ready when they graduate, so they're able to meet the needs of the employers in our state. A couple things I've noticed in the short time I've been there that seems to be working well at Lincoln. They have small class sizes. The classrooms and the labs are designed for about 30 students, but they're averaging about 20 students per class. All the courses that I've seen are trade relevant, meaning you're probably not going to get Shakespeare or Greek mythology as you're going into an HVAC program. One of the things that's very nice is the simulated workplace environment. All the students wear a uniform, very similar to what they may wear out in the field. So when you walk into the space, the students actually look like service technicians. They get comfortable with the dress code. Students clock in, they clock out on their cell phones. Many employers require the technicians to have their own hand tools. So the students, as part of their tuition, they actually get a tool kit that includes refrigerant gauges, meters, and an assortment of professional quality tools. They include in the curriculum professional skills development, really emphasizing some of the soft skills. They call it the Career Edge program. Each training module actually contains online assignments for the students, and they're required to complete them. And these cover everything from financial literacy, interview, resume writing skills, customer service skills, how to deal with angry employees, angry customers, career success skills. They really focus on the soft skills, including monthly they have workshops where different employers will come in and work with the students. It's a lot of partnerships with the employers. By far, one of the big things I noticed since I came to Lincoln is the partnership with the different employers, both at the corporate level, the Fortune 500 companies, and a lot of our local partners. A lot of our employers, they'll actually sponsor a room. When they sponsor the room, one of the things they'll do is they'll actually go in there, they'll paint the room, they'll put their logo on it. If you walk into the room, the technicians actually think they may be working for a McKinney's or a Maxair or Lennox or something like that. It really starts building, cultivating that engagement with them. Some of the employers are actually offering some pretty good incentives to the top students, things such as specialized training, potential job offers. One of the manufacturers that we work with is actually offering the students, top students in each class, when they graduate, they go to their manufacturing facility in Texas for 6 weeks. They give them an option when they finish there. They're paying for their room, their board, their airfare. They give them a small stipend, and then they offer them a job anywhere in the country they want to work at any of the locations. The thing that's really been most surprising to me since I've been there is the strong connections with some of the union contractors. Again, I mentioned from my background previously, I came from that union background where I worked at the apprenticeship school. I was a union contractor. And back in those days, union, non-union didn't always play well together. Right now, the union contractors are hiring majority of our students. There's a strong collaboration with them. The contractors are providing valuable career paths. They're bringing the students in. They have their own 5-year apprenticeship program, and they're bringing them in different ways. Some of them will actually give them a year-for-year credit. Some of them are testing them based on life experiences. Some of them are just paying them based on whatever their life experiences are and then having them complete the apprenticeship program. But those are by far the jobs the students like the most are the ones that are offering a career path, such as the union contractors and the manufacturers. All these things are working well, but we need to find a way to attract the next generation of skilled tradespeople, specifically Generation Z and Millennium. I heard a podcast recently that said 10 years ago, 98% of the high schoolers wanted to go to college. And in that podcast, they said now it's less than 50% that's really interested. But out of those, the other ones don't know what options they have and what they want to do. Currently, 70% of the trade positions that are found by word of mouth. I believe that better exposure to the skilled trades will solve this problem. And again, somebody else had mentioned it also, this starts at the middle school and high school level. I think guidance counselors really need to provide options in the skilled trades the same way they talk about college or the military. And we need to shift the narrative and make the trades more appealing as an alternative to our high school graduates other than just traditional college. And I have nothing against traditional college. I live in a fairly affluent area in North Cherokee. And I paid for 3 of my kids to go to college, and I got a daughter that's a junior at UNG now. And they'll all graduate debt-free. But it's not because they're really good academic students, because my checks cleared the bank. Young people need to know that in the trades, they can make $100,000 relatively easy in less than a 10-year period. And many of my peers and leadership roles in the industry have started using social media over the last couple of years. I think HVAC and the trades in general were a little slow to jump on the social media bandwagon, but now a lot of them's using it in different platforms to encourage people to join the trades. I got a friend of mine that recently launched a website. It's called jointhetrades.com. And it's designed to connect potential tradespeople with local schools, unions, and employers. It's almost like a career fair for the skilled trades online. Lincoln Tech, surprisingly, was actually on. I didn't know it at the time, but when I talked to her last night, she said they actually have several of their schools that signed up on it. And what she did, she took it, and it's not just HVAC, electrical. They include culinary, truck drivers, any of the skilled trades. And it, like I said, basically just puts the employers with the people that's looking to join the skilled trades. But that's just one route. The reality is currently there's 110,000 unfilled HVAC jobs in the U.S. 23,000 technicians are retiring annually. For every technician that's entering the field, you got 3 old guys like me that's retiring. The schools are doing a good job, but we really need to help get the word out there. Continue the narrative and educate people that there are other options out there. Again, I think Lincoln's doing our part along with many other industries, but we need to encourage them.
Thank you for your comments and your update. I completely agree with what you're saying. Mark and Bob, you guys did a great job kind of cleaning up a wonderful committee meeting here today. We have any questions from our committee members? Certainly, Senator.
Did you say that your average student is 30-something?
Yeah, at Lincoln Tech, the average student's about 33 years old.
So the one question I have, you guys are doing an amazing program. I loved everything that you said about the work you're doing, and you're preparing students for sure to get into these good jobs. You said something, though, that just made me think. If we need 41,000 HVAC techs year over year over year, and our students are 30-something on average, that means they're probably already working or earning a salary. And yet the program is 4 days a week, 4 hours a day. So I'm just wondering if there's any conversations at all about how do we get people who already have to work into programs where we know that we need them, and how do the programs actually work around a working person's schedule?
Yeah, we offer both evening classes and night classes, and it is challenging for them. In fact, we're able to, anybody, since I've been there, in the short period I've been there, anybody that graduates has a job waiting for them. But one of the challenges, just like I said, these are working adults. They're already in their 30s. Most of them already have families. So they may have been working in a warehouse job where, for several years, and they're making $19, $20 an hour. And they're not always willing to take one step backwards in order to actually get that entry-level job, which they'll be, obviously be able to make a lot more money in the next few months. So,
other questions? Gentlemen, thank you very much. Before we wrap up, committee members, I want to remind you that Haley is going to be emailing out the updated recommendation report in the very near future. And when she does, this is really important that you all read through that thoroughly, make sure that everything has been captured that you want to be in that report, specifically under the recommendations, as well as if there's any corrections. At our last meeting on November the 14th, we will take a vote to adopt those, and ultimately the recommendations could become legislation, they could become recommendations, they could become rules, they could become budget items. Obviously, the goal is to help solve this problem both short-term and long-term, and making sure that we're working together as a team, because it's not going to be solved by any one organization or government. It's going to be done by teamwork. Again, the reminder, the last meeting will be at the Georgia State Capitol in room 450 up on the 4th floor. That will be at 10 a.m. Again, the Lieutenant Governor, Burt Jones, will be speaking to us at that time. It should be a reasonably short meeting. However, I'm going to ask everyone, if you want to wear your Sunday best, we're going to do a committee photo when that's done as well. So I'd appreciate your participation and attendance. Is there anything else for the good of the order before we conclude our meeting today? At least you do. Champ can wear whatever he wants because he's a celebrity. All right. If there's nothing further, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Thank you for your attendance.